You know what a discovery call is, and you know that you should offer them in your new bookkeeping business, but you're not quite sure how to run them or how to host one. And so that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. I specifically wanted to record this video so that you could feel confident and know how to show up on the day of these discovery calls, because these discovery calls are definitely going to be able to not only give you confidence, but help you to understand the kind of business that you need to start, run, and scale. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can take your prospect to client during a very effective yet simple discovery call. Look, I get it. You've been doing your direct outreach, especially if you picked up my resource, Nurture Your Network. You've been doing the relationship building, rekindling the relationships with contacts in your network, and you've been putting the feelers out there, and you're so ready to schedule or book that discovery call, which can also be called sales call, complimentary call. We covered all of that in last week's video. If you haven't watched that already, I'll make sure to post the card should show up here on the screen momentarily, but I'll also put it in the description of wherever you're watching this video. Let's get back to it. You are ready to book that discovery call, but you're feeling nervous, like you're not ready because you're not quite sure how to have a productive discovery call or how to host one. And if you were like me in the very beginning, even though I was putting out the feelers and I was contacting people and doing that direct outreach to the contacts in my network, I was secretly hoping that no one would really book anything because I wasn't ready. And the reason I wasn't ready is because I wasn't sure how to run an effective discovery call. And what I mean by run, it's everything the before, during, and after, because that is the recipe. There is a pre-call, during call, and after the call process or workflow, if you will. And that is what we're going to be covering today, because I want you to be prepared, to show up confident, and to know that after every single one of these discovery calls, you will learn something not only about yourself, but also about something that will help your business to grow. Doesn't that sound good? All right, let's get into it. After today's video, you're going to be very confident and so ready to book your discovery call. Not just book them, but then be prepared and look forward to actually having these calls instead of being like me in the beginning where I was hoping that no one would really book. We're not going to do that. Don't be like me. Don't do what I did. Instead, prepare. Feel confident. It's okay to feel a little bit nervous, but when you prepare, I don't know about you, but I'm not a wing it person. I've never been a wing it person. I like to prepare, and even though you prepare, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be fluid, because after all, a discovery call is a conversation. Okay, it is a conversation that goes two ways, but that discovery call is mostly about them, your prospect. It's not really about you. But today's video is all about it preparing you to show up confident, to feel good about what you're going to say, how you're going to behave, how you're going to show up, and even provide value, because after all, you're building the know, like, and trust factor through a video chat. All right, before we get any further, hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Veronica Sagastumi, and I have this new channel called Profitable Bookkeeping Biz, where I show you how to start, run, and scale a profitable bookkeeping business. Whether you've been reaching out through email, direct messages, text, WhatsApp, what have you, the moment somebody responds to you and it feels like it's a good, positive response, make sure that you're ready to invite them to get on a call with you. In the early stages, you may not have this process automated, and actually that's a good thing. I want to talk to you today about having a manual process, which I'm going to call a high touch scheduling system, which means you're going to go ahead and let them know that you are ready, willing, and able to help someone by scheduling time on your calendar that works best for them in order to hop on a call where you can learn more about what's going on with their business and how you may be able to support them. Recently, I had an interaction which was not good. Basically, when you set up these discovery calls, to keep it simple and make it easy for your prospect, because you are making that first impression through every interaction that you make, which includes scheduling time for you and them to hop on a call with you to talk about the business and to talk about your services. But recently I had to reach out to an attorney to get some advice on, it wasn't business related. It was actually more for a rental property that I own. And so I got a great referral and I reached out to the attorney, and the attorney says, absolutely, I can help you. Please work with my assistant so to schedule time on my calendar. That's where things went way downhill, because in working with his assistant started this back and forth email exchange where she didn't make it easy. I'm going to show you today how to make it easy, but in the meantime, she didn't make it easy. She was not very helpful. There was a lot of me waiting, and it was a stressful time because it was a timely matter. And I did specify that in my subject line and in the description of my email of what I needed, what I was looking for, and timing was of an essence. I started that on a Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, I had exchanged 4 emails with his assistant. Still nothing resolved. She was more concerned about sending me the invoice to get paid, and I said, yes, I'll pay. By Friday, 7 emails later, I had already paid the invoice, and by 4:00 on a Friday, I still did not have time scheduled. And as I mentioned, it was a very timely, important matter. So by the time Monday came, I was ready to look for someone else because there was no scheduling link, but also she had not offered anything that would be useful to me to book a time. I basically was begging to get on his calendar. And finally, she wrote me an email, even though I had provided her with my cell phone numerous times. She wrote me an email at 12:00 on a Monday, which I did not see until 2 p.m. That email at 12:00 said, he can meet with you at 1:30 today. Let me know ASAP. Yeah, that did not sit well. I contacted her after 2:00 because, again, I didn't see it. And I said, I didn't see your email. Is there any other time? And she basically, another 3 emails. So we're up to almost 10 or 11 now, where she was like, okay, he can see you at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning because he has to be in court all day. Guess what? I took it. But I feel like that could have been so much easier. That left such a bad taste in my mouth. I was already showing up a bit defensive. I was not having a good time because I was stressed out. I needed responses. I needed his time. It goes on and on and on. She could have done such a much better job of communicating and setting the expectation with me as to his timing, when he's available, how soon do we need it. Instead, the last email that I got from her was basically making it sound like she had done me a favor by squeezing me into his calendar at 7 a.m. and that typically they require 2 weeks notice to get on his calendar. So let's not do that. That's my little story, and that's why I want to prepare you. In order for you to have a very productive, efficient, and profitable discovery call where you convert your prospect to clients, there are certain things that are in your control that you can do from the very, very beginning. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and let's get started right now. Okay, so as I mentioned, by this time, you're probably doing some direct outreach. And by direct outreach, I mean you're sending direct emails or messages to people that you already know, contacts that are in your network or people that have been introduced to you. So you're already having those conversations. And the moment that they seem like they're open to or responding, you may want to make that invitation where you could say something like, hey, I'd love to hear more about your business and what's going on and how I may be able to support you. Would you be interested in having like a 15-20 minute conversation? And here's where you make it easy. You give them the option of 3 to 4 times, whether it's different days, different time spots, but also make sure they include the time zone that you're in so that they can then figure out on their schedule as well. Don't assume that everybody's on your same time zone. And so that's where you can keep it simple. You say, I'd love to hear, like I just said, and then say, here are some slots that are available in my calendar right now. Do any of these work for you? And if not, what would be a few times that would work best for you? And let's see what we can schedule. You see how you make it easy by doing all the legwork yourself and leave it flexible so that they can get back to you if the times that you've offered don't work out for them. You keep it open-ended and you keep the conversation going. Remember, a discovery call is a conversation. Every interaction that the prospect has with you is an opportunity for you to make another impression, a good impression, that is. The invitation that you make, even if it's through your calendar, let's say you're doing a Google Calendar, you send the invitation because at this point we haven't automated anything yet. So we're doing it manually, but there's a way that you can still do a high touch. And by high touch, I mean make it more personal. So let's say your prospect has gone back to you where, like you say, Wednesday, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on such and such date. You're making it very clear. Manually, you're going to go into your calendar and open up the calendar link. You're going to schedule that time. The title of your calendar invitation should be very clear. My discovery calls are 20 minutes. So I would say 20 minute, MIN discovery call, Veronica plus your prospect's name. Make sure that it's your name and your prospect's name, because otherwise, if you just put their name on their calendar, they're just going to see discovery call with their name. So it's important that you put both names so that they know when they accept that invitation, the information that they need is there. For example, they've got the time zone converter, they've got the name, the title of the discovery or the type of meeting that it is. And in the description, you may include the Zoom link because it should be a video call, because these days, if you can have an in-person meeting, fantastic. I discourage you from having a phone one because you want video. Video accelerates your know, like, and trust factor. Video allows your prospect to see you, to connect with you, and for you as well with them. But video is also a great way, like a Zoom video, for you to record the session. We'll get into the during the call in a moment. But for me to give you a best practice, it is this. You send out the email or calendar invitation with a clear title. In the description, yes, you're going to put the Zoom link with all that information, whether it's GoToMeeting or Google Workspace. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's Google Hangouts. But whatever it is, make sure you put the link, all the relevant information. And also put a little note as to a little bit of the agenda. It's like to discuss what's going on with your business, as well as how I may be able to support you. Looking forward to our time together, or even in the body, hey, come prepared to answer some of these questions. Use that calendar invitation as a way for you to gather more information or set the expectation. And that's it. You send off the invitation and they accept it. And that's a high touch calendar invitation that's clear. It is descriptive and you're ready to go. And remember, in a previous email, I said you're in control of when you offer those. But in the very beginning, be flexible with your time, but don't kill yourself. Don't give up on time with the family or other commitments that you've already made. Just make those options of time that they can choose from a little flexible so that it'll work for them and it will work for you. By you being so willing to work with their schedule and giving them options to choose from, you get away from that syndrome of, I don't know, when would you like to meet? I'm not sure. What do you have available? Stop the back and forth like I just shared with you with my attorney's assistant. Don't do that. By you feeling, being confident and showing up with some direct guidance, you are already setting the stage as you being the leader, you being the one in control, but you're also being helpful by giving them the information and doing the legwork for them. If you're enjoying this video, please give me a thumbs up or subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss a future video again. I publish one every single week, sharing tips, best practices, and strategies to help you start, run, and scale a profitable bookkeeping business. All right, let's get back to today's topic. Hey, let me give you some best practices to prepare and show up for your discovery call. Whether it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that's all up to you. There are definitely certain things that you can do to prepare. And part of that is showing up professionally. And that means show up a few minutes before the actual call. Get yourself situated, test your lighting, your sound, your mic, make sure that you're fully charged with your AirPods. Nothing's worse than feeling like you're showing up and somebody's fumbling and they're not ready. If you look frazzled, that doesn't exude confidence. So show up, in your best self. Give yourself a few moments to get grounded, to shift from whatever you were doing. Take a few deep breaths, review your notes. Maybe you've had a few exchanges, a few emails or DMs or texts. Review your notes so that you're very clear. Maybe you asked a few questions prior to your discovery call and you're reviewing their answers. So that's part of what you want to do before you hop on the call. Just make sure that you're ready to go when you press that, button where you're letting them into the room. And here we go. You're going to greet them the very first few minutes, maybe spend 2-3 minutes greeting them and exchanging some like, where are you from? Where are you calling from? What, time zone, just to break the ice a little bit before you dive into the meat and potatoes of your call. And then leave about 5 minutes. That's why I like my calls to be about 20 minutes, because I do use up a couple of minutes to sort of break the ice. And then the last 3 to 4 minutes, I wrap up, I do a recap, and I set the stage. We're going to get into that in just a few minutes. This is all part of that interaction that I'm talking about. Every single touch point should be a really positive interaction for your prospect. Remember, you're there to offer a solution to their problem, to make them feel confident and at ease. And how you show up, how you prepare, your professionalism, if that's part of your brand. I mean, I don't know anyone in our profession that shows up disheveled or kind of out of breath. I'd rather you reschedule if you have something going on, if you can't be fully present. Every single touch point matters. And this, especially in the beginning, it's your reputation. You want to make sure that somebody just walks away with like, wow, that was such a good interaction. It was very clear and valuable, and they showed up ready to help me out. Okay? Now let's talk about during the call. The very first thing you're going to do right after you greet them is ask for their permission for you to record the call. This recording will come in so handy when you go to recap and follow up, which we'll talk about later. But ask for their permission, and it could be something as simple as, if you don't mind, do I have your permission to record this call? I don't want to miss anything, and I just want to be able to listen back in case I feel like there was some important information that you shared that I may have missed. And usually they'll say yes. I have never had anybody say no. So, but it's important that you ask for their permission, even though when you go to record it, Zoom, if you're on Zoom especially, they'll let you know, the recording is in session. Still get their verbal approval. It's just for good manners, okay? Now you're ready to dive into the meat and potatoes of the discovery call. Remember, I want you to ask open-ended questions. Avoid yes or no questions. They go nowhere. So I will give you an example in a moment. I want you to also get ready to ask and then pause and listen. All right? Ask one question at a time. I'm trying to give you best practices here. Of course, you can customize it and make it your own, but avoid these mistakes that will lead you to not having a converting discovery call. Not every call will convert to a client, but they're good practice for you. Every single call will make you better. And that's what I want you to do, is just to show up, be your best self by preparing. And in this particular case, you're going to ask an open-ended question. You're going to listen. You're going to take some notes. And it's okay to ask clarifying questions. Or remember, it's a conversation. So as you're listening and you think of something else, you may want to ask an additional question to do a deeper dive into that topic, especially as you're asking your questions. That I'm going to share a few of my favorite ones in a few moments, but as you start asking your questions, you may be able to tell, oh, there's something there. There's a pain point there that I can drill into to understand the problem better so that I can provide a better solution to their problem. I want to give you an example of a yes-no question and an open-ended question. I think a yes-no question would be like something of asking, did you hear about us on social media? That's a yes-no. Instead, it's like, what's going on in your business that has you reaching out today? Totally different, right? Even better, if you think it's appropriate, another open-ended question at some point would be, tell me more about what you're looking for in a bookkeeper. Or tell me more about what you're looking for in a bookkeeping service provider. Whatever you want to fill in the blank there, but it's an open-ended question. Avoid yes or no questions. So as you're starting to go from the greeting into starting to ask the questions for your discovery call, and you're going to ask open-ended questions, you're going to ask, pause, you're going to listen, you're going to ask for clarifying questions if you need to, or you're going to ask questions to get into a deeper conversation about that topic, especially if it's something that you know that you can provide a service for. Did I mention to only ask one question at a time? Don't bombard your prospect, your bookkeeping prospect with, so what are you looking for and what's going on and what's not working? Tell me all the things. It's too much. Be in control of the conversation. Ask one question at a time. Open-ended questions. Ask, pause, and listen. If you haven't been taking notes all along with this video, you may want to grab a piece of paper and a pen right now. I'm going to give you some of my favorite questions to ask during a discovery call. And again, I hardly ever sell during a call. I will do that in a follow-up, but that's more to come in a minute. Thinking, what am I doing? What's going on? What do I have to do to make things better? My favorite type of questions to ask a prospect are the kind where it allows them to share with me what's going on with their business, and it allows them to unload some of that burden that they feel, or, just things that are going on that they haven't been able to speak to anybody else about. And so I like to ask questions like, what's going on in your business that keeps you up at night? That seems like a loaded question, but by the time that they are reaching out and we're hopping on a call, they have something going on that they need to talk about and they need help with. So give them the opportunity to tell you all about it. Another type of question that I like to ask is, can you give me a little bit of background? Tell me a little bit about your business, when you started, why you started it, and just what's going on lately. Do you see how there can be another question that allows them to give me a little bit of background so that I can get a better picture of their overall business, but they give me a lot of information. You're listening for those little golden nuggets that allow you to get insight into what's exciting to them and what would they rather be doing than the books and the financials, and they need help with all the things that are bookkeeping related or bookkeeping and accounting related. Another question that I like to ask, again, it's a conversation. It's not an interrogation. So listen for the answers, and as it seems appropriate, you can ask these questions. But I do like to ask, in a perfect world, what does your business look like? What does the support look like? What are you doing, and what are other people doing? Allow them the opportunity to describe their dream business, because then you're listening to how can you help with that. And as we start to get into the conversation even further, I then like to ask a clarifying question, whether it be about if it's a project, maybe it's a cleanup project, or maybe it's a project for a due diligence, or maybe it's a bookkeeping, monthly retainer bookkeeping type of service that they're looking for. Whatever it is okay for you to ask, what is their timeline? What is their ideal timeline? Because you're wanting to make sure that it's realistic, that it works within what you're able to provide, because you don't want to set an expectation when you say, oh, of course I'm available, I can start right away, and then you don't really have the time to work on it. So get a little bit of information about what they're looking for, what's the timeline, maybe they'll offer what budget, they may ask you how much. You can't answer that yet because you're still doing data gathering. You may be asked that, and what you can do is just say, let me finish gathering all the information and I'll put a quote together, and that's part of my follow-up. Let's finish the questions that we have for each other right now, and then I'll follow up with you. Because we don't want to wrap up yet. We don't want to leave the discovery call on the note of how much, because we need to make sure that we have understood what they're looking for and that we have a solution to their problem. And that will come in a quote. This discovery call is a conversation. So let the conversation flow. And when you see an opportunity to ask more questions, absolutely do so. But keep your eye on the clock, because you don't want to run out of time. And what you want to do is, as you're listening to them explain or share some information, you want to validate that information. And you could even share something that you've done that's similar to what their problem is, and how you were able to serve or solve the problem for another client or for an employer that you worked for. Always be authentic, be truthful. But even if you don't have a lot of clients, if you have not had any clients, have you done something like that before with an employer? It is absolutely okay to share that. Just don't share names, okay? As you're keeping your eye on the clock, With about 4 minutes left in your time slot, you're going to want to start wrapping up, and you can make the transition from the conversation to say, I don't want to run out of time before I have an opportunity to make sure that I've captured all of the information that you've been sharing with me. And by now you've jotted a few notes, a few bullet points that you thought were relevant to the conversation, recap those, and then set the expectation for the follow-up. The follow-up is where you shine. The follow-up is where you're going to let them know, hey, here's what you shared with me. Here is how I can support you. And that's when you sell, because you're going to tell them, I'm going to follow up with you after this call with an email that will include a quote where I'll be sure to highlight what I believe is the issue or the problem and how I may be able to support you. If it's a project or a monthly retainer, we'll spell all that out, okay? Let me just say, next week's video will be about what to put in that follow-up email, including the quote, because that is a whole video in itself, and I don't want this to run too long, and I know that I'm giving you a lot of food for thought. All right, so you've had your discovery call, you had the greeting, you transitioned into the meat and potatoes of the call, which is the questions, to ask open-ended questions, pause and listen, take some notes, ask clarifying questions, ask follow-up questions for a deeper dive conversation. It's two-way, because here's the thing. This is a two-way conversation. Throughout this whole discovery call, in a previous video I mentioned to you, this is a time for you to discover if this is a good prospect to work with. This is a time for them to size you up and wonder, do we communicate well? Do we have a good rapport? Could we continue the conversation to see if this is a good working relationship that we can enter into? It's both ways, because you may see something that you don't like and you may think they're being unrealistic with their timeline, they're bargain hunters, or it's not your ideal client at all because what they're looking for is outside of your area of expertise. And it is absolutely okay to say that. It's absolutely okay to say, I'm not an expert in that, but I may have a colleague who is. Let me put you in contact with them. There's always a way that you can provide value and be professional without putting yourself in a situation that's uncomfortable or that you have no idea how to get out of. And so you can see how through this video chat, this video conversation, you are continuing to build that know, like, and trust factor with your new prospect. And by you not having a sales pitch, I never said anything about sell your services. The selling of your services will come in the follow-up, which is now you set the expectation, I'll follow up with you. Best practice tip here is this. If you had your call in the first half of the day, then make sure that you follow up that same day by the end of the day. And if you had your call at the end of the day, let them know that they will hear from you via email by the next day. Don't wait 48 hours. Strike while the iron is hot. Make a good impression. Continue to make a good impression. If you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, let's go ahead and do that right now, and you won't miss next week's video. In today's video, we covered what it would take to run an effective and efficient, profitable discovery call. It is one of those things where you have to do it because it's good practice, it's good for your business, and it's good for you. However, in the very beginning, I do encourage you to do it a little bit more manual, which is a higher touch. We can automate this later. My process is automated now, so I'm going to show you how to do that in a future video. But doing so manually will allow you to, just get in the practice of it. And for your prospects to feel like they're very important people, your VIPs, and that you care a lot about them and their business and you're willing to work with their schedule. So stay a little fluid, but don't go and compromise your work, your job, your family. Work within your boundaries and be sure to work with your prospects and their timeline as well. I know we covered a lot. Take a deep breath. You can always rewatch the video and take some notes. And remember, a discovery call is just that. It's a time for you guys to discover whether you'd be a good fit to work with each other, as well as it's an opportunity for you to continue to make a good impression. And that's why I encourage you to make that effort to do a high touch, manually scheduling and making that invitation to hop on a call with you. It is not sustainable long term, but this is just in the very beginning or when maybe you're transitioning or doing a very aggressive growth strategy. All right, everybody. I know we covered a lot today, so that's it for now. I'm Veronica, and I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Bye for now.